following program is a production of Pioneer Public Television. Major funding for your legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a statewide coalition fighting for a 10-year commitment to fixing our dire transportation needs. A safe, reliable transportation system strengthens Minnesota's economy. Join the conversation at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota Clean Water's safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans. Live from St. Paul, Minnesota, we welcome you to the 35th session of Your Legislators, a roundtable discussion featuring state lawmakers who are prepared to answer your questions and discuss important issues affecting the citizens of Minnesota. Now, here is your moderator for tonight's program, Barry Anderson.
Good evening and welcome to this week's version of Your Legislators. We're delighted that you have joined us for what we think will be an interesting hour-long conversation about the issues that are of most importance to the people of the state of Minnesota. This is, as always, your program. We invite you to call in your questions. The telephone number, email address, and so forth will appear on your screen. Follow the instructions, send your questions in, and we'll see that they get to our distinguished panel of guests. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and we invite you to interact with our program on those media as well. We begin this program, as we do each week, by introducing the panel of guests that's going to be helping us unravel the mysteries of St. Paul. To my immediate left, from District 7B, Duluth, has not been with us before, but is with us for the first time, Representative Eric Simonson. Did I pronounce that right?
You got it absolutely right.
All right. Well, it's the Scandinavian name. I can handle those. When they deviate from the Scandinavian, that I have trouble. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm just starting my second term in the legislature. I'm from Duluth. I represent downtown and western Duluth. My day job is I'm a deputy chief with the Duluth Fire Department. Been there about 25 years. I've got a family, married, got two daughters, 15 and 9, great kids. And I serve on 3 committees. I'm on the full tax committee in the House, property tax division, and then I serve on jobs and energy committee.
We're delighted that you could be with us. Looking forward to the conversation. Thanks. Been with us in the past from District 36, Champlin, Senator John Hoffman. Senator Hoffman?
Barry, thank you. And first of all, congratulations on 25 years.
We keep looking for somebody with charisma to do this job, and as soon as that person shows up, I'm done. So, but for now, anyway, you get me.
That's funny. That's good. So did they give you a big birthday cake, too? Was that the...
No, I got a plaque. I should have brought it in with me. But
nice.
we're here to talk about you, Senator, so tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
I live in Champlin. I represent Brooklyn Park, Champlin, and Coon Rapids. It's Senate District 36, and it's the northern part of Hennepin County and the southern part of Anoka County. And my day job is 2 of them, actually. I co-founded Consumer Credit of Minnesota, and then I have Ally Business Solutions, which is on University Avenue here in St. Paul, which does digital imaging and archiving of paper, and we help people with disabilities find employment opportunities. And I've had a great year doing that. I serve on K-12. Education Committee, as well as Health, Human Services, and Housing Policy. Then the Environment and Energy, I'm the Vice Chair, and then the Elections Subcommittee, and then I get to sit on the LCCMR and School Lands Trust, and I think there's a couple of other ones in there too, Governor's Workforce Development Council, and still have time to play my drums once in a while. So.
The School Lands Trust piece is sort of interesting, and maybe we'll have a chance to talk about that. That's an issue unique to Minnesota. Many states don't have that, and it'd be interesting for our viewers to know a little bit more about that. So we'll come back to that. Frequent guest with us as well, District 8, Alexandria, Senator Bill Ingebrigtsen. Senator Ingebrigtsen, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Congratulations, 25 years. Bill Ingebrigtsen. I represent District 8, which includes parts of Douglas County, all of Otter Tail County, except for 3 townships in the northeast corner, which for the viewers is Fergus Falls, Perham, Alexandria, 1/10 of Minnesota's, over 1/10 of Minnesota's beautiful 10,000 lakes, by the way, a lot of lakes. This is my 9th year in the Senate. A retired sheriff. I have 2 kids and 6 beautiful grandkids. I sit on the Senate Finance Committee, on the Ag, Veterans, and Environment Committee, as well as the Ethics Committee, also the Lessard-Sams, and numerous other smaller committees, the Capital Security Committee, which I'm staying back for tomorrow, which deals with concerns for the new renovations and some more security issues that we're dealing with. So.
And those security issues, of course, are of a great deal of concern sort of institutionally. There's been a lot of discussion around the Capitol about those concerns.
Yes, there has.
9 years, that probably makes you our veteran legislature. Or Representative Torkelson, are you at the 9 or 10 year mark? I can't remember.
I think he's...
Well, some people think I've been around a lot longer than I have, Barry. But first, I'd like to add my congratulations to you for your 25 years doing this show. That's a great accomplishment. We had a great party at the what used to be the Kelly Inn and is now the Capitol Ridge the other night.
Best Western, I think, right? Isn't that what it is?
Yes, yes. And it was fun to see clips of you through the years. Nothing much has changed except perhaps your hairline.
Yeah, that's pretty noticeable, too. So,
but it was great fun reminiscing. I'm in my 4th term in the House, so I'm starting my 7th year in the legislature. I serve as the chair of the bonding committee in the House, so that's a new territory for me, enjoying that very much. I also serve on full taxes, the environment committee, the legacy committee, ways and means, and on a number of water deals. I was recently elected co-chair of the reestablished Legislative Water Commission at the legislature that has 12 legislators, 6 from each body, 6 from each party, so that's a very interesting endeavor, and just recently named to the Great Lakes Water Commission.
well, let's start with a question. It's interesting. I'm not entirely certain the method by which they measure such things, but over the course of the last several years, the discussion that has generated perhaps the most viewers, the most response, has been about wolves. And we're back in wolf territory again. Given the actions of a federal court that restored the wolves to the endangered species list, but viewers remain concerned about this topic, and I don't think I need to tell our panel this, there's some division about this, and we have it reflected in the questions tonight. We have 2 viewers from St. Louis County, one who notes the depredation from the wolves and crop losses and livestock losses, and very concerned about that problem. And another viewer who would encourage us to look for ways to sort of coexist with the wolves and deal with the issue another way. Recognizing the universe of possibilities here is somewhat limited because of the federal action. Nonetheless, let's talk a little bit about the wolves. Let's start with our veteran legislature, Senator Engelbrechtsen.
Okay, well, it so happened that I was actually chairing the committee the first year we had our actual first wolf hunt when the gray wolf was taken off of the endangered species list. So it was quite interesting, to say the least. The Minnesota DNR, and along with the legislature, had at that time done a very fine job of putting together a wolf management plan. And so they basically were ready. They hit the ground ready to go. And, of course, the numbers were there. The experts were saying that we definitely could have a wolf hunt here in Minnesota and try and manage the numbers. In fact, we had the 3rd largest number in the North American continent next to Alaska and Canada here in Minnesota alone. So we had a very successful take of the wolves the first 2 years. And as you explained, the federal Supreme Court, I think
District Court judge.
District Court judge out of Washington, D.C., ruled that arbitrarily and capriciously they were taken off of, I guess, the endangered species list, so they're now put back on. So the wolf hunt is definitely on hold for now, and there are some pieces of legislation to try and address that. There's some resolutions asking our federal legislators, because it was a ruling against with regards to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, so it didn't really include the 3 states. It did include the 3 states, but we have no jurisdiction over that. So we're doing what we can to try and reinstate that, because the numbers are still very healthy. And like the other 50 species in Minnesota, we do have to manage them when they get to a certain number. And So it's moving forward in a respectful fashion, I might add.
Is there some talk about a fund, I mean, to deal with crop or cattle losses and other kinds of things?
There is, and the state of Minnesota was taking that over because we were actually doing the taking, we were doing the managing, so the federal government previously was paying for that. Now that the federal government now the federal judges ruled on this, it's back in their hands. At least that's what a lot of legislators would like to see. So there's some funding mechanisms that have to be looked at, and maybe we're going to have to do it locally. We're going to have to do some deprivation money locally. But there will still be some cattlemen out there that are going to be, there's going to be some cattle that are taken, and we have to deal with that like we do other species. So.
Representative Torkelson, your thoughts?
Well, thank you. I'm a farmer by trade, so I certainly sympathize with my fellow livestock producers in northern Minnesota who really struggle with this issue because the wolves take their livestock. It's their livelihood, and the wolves, when they are too plentiful, really cause some serious problems for producers up there. And there's also an issue with the deer herd. There's, anecdotally at least, my friends that live up north and hunt deer in the woods often tell me that they no longer see many deer, but they see a lot of sign of wolves. And so it's a matter of balance, in my opinion. We've been taking a lot of wolves over the years. Even when they were on the list in the past, we had federal trappers and sharpshooters in this state that were taking a number of wolves that were causing problems. Of course, those guys went away when the wolf came off the list. Now, I don't know if the feds are coming back, but we live in a world where we need to manage this population. We are not, we don't want to eliminate the wolves, but we do need to control the population.
Representative Simonson, it comes from these few callers come from your territory in St. Louis County. Tell our viewers what you think about this issue.
Right. So, a lot of the comments that have been made already are spot on. And we recognize that the federal, court has made a ruling, and that kind of changes the game a little bit. But I think there's another perspective that we shouldn't forget and that we shouldn't ignore. And in my district, I have a significant Native American population, and this is a concern of theirs, the wolf is something that they respect, is an animal that they respect. And their concern that they've explained to me over the last couple of years has been how this process kind of came to be and the original plan that was put in place by the DNR. So with this federal court ruling, there's been some changes, obviously, and I think going forward, hopefully there's an opportunity that if there's going to be further changes that we bring them into the mix and recognize that, they have legitimate concerns too. That being said, there is a bill afloat, I know, that would allow us to put some state dollars into this deprivation fund, and I've signed on to that. I think that's a good idea. That's at least offers some relief to our ag folks and our farmers. So I think if we can get some money into that, that's at least a step in the right direction. But if we continue to have discussions about future hunts, I do think it's important that we recognize the concerns of the Native American community.
And I'm glad, Representative Simonson, that you brought up the Native tribes. I mean, there are 11 tribes in Minnesota, and I believe all 11 have had the same kinds of concerns throughout the process. The other thing that exists, too, is the count, and I'm glad Representative Torkelson brought up the deer count. I mean, you're hearing some talk around the chambers about having a deer audit. I'm sure you guys have had enough emails. They're smiling, so the answer is yes. Do we trust the numbers that are out there? How accurate are the numbers? How do you get it through a sampling? And so I still think there needs to be some procedural and process questions that need to go into the discussion, as well as can the federal law be challenged? And the point of at one time in Minnesota, if you felt endangered to your livestock or to yourself, that you could take the animal on your property, but that isn't the case anymore, as far as I understand. We have a. Is that correct?
Actually, you can defend yourself, of course.
Yourself.
But that's it. That's about the extent of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned. We'll have more to say about this, and it is not the last chapter, I don't think. Viewer from Lakefield, not too far from the Iowa border, actually has a question about the Iowa border. Well, not about the Iowa border, but here's his question. The question is, the governor's budget plans to raise gas tax somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 cents. He's worried about whether local gas stations in Southern Minnesota will be competing with Northern Iowa. And of course, that specific question is of interest, but it's part of a larger picture, which is this whole question of transportation and where that issue might be going. Should we start with you, Senator Hoffman? What do you think?
Absolutely. I don't serve on transportation, but I live on one of the busiest, if not the busiest, highways in the state of Minnesota, Highway 10. I spent 9 years in Iowa traveling all 99 counties, and it's amazing. I wish he would say if he was from Kossuth County, because that's the only county that decided not to be the squared. It's a larger county. We know we have a transportation infrastructure, and I think the debate's out there on how you're going to pay for it. When we did the One Minnesota, of course, folks were talking about paying for it by, doing cost shifts. And I said, well, wait a minute, we have to look at, finding some sustainable funding for it. I don't know where we sit at the end of the day, but hopefully the folks in transportation, and again, if you guys serve on transportation, are having the conversation about what this means to the net effect from your neighboring bordering towns.
Representative Torkelson? Lakefield's not in your district, but at least it's in that direction anyway.
That's right. Well, the governor's proposal for a gas tax has a 16 cent per gallon minimum, as I understand it, and if gas prices go up, it would go up from there. And they call it a wholesale gas tax, but it's applied just like our regular gas tax at the pump, cents per gallon. I think we first need to sit back and make sure that we've properly identified the need. We all know there is a need, but just how big is it? And how big the need is will help us define what kind of a transportation package we'll put together this year. I believe we will put one together that will address at least a good portion of our needs in transportation. As chair of the bonding committee, I expect to be a part of that conversation. There's some opportunities to do some bonding for transportation. There's some limitations there also. But we'll be looking at, I think, a mixed bag of different approaches to help our transportation system, including trying to be more efficient with the dollars we have.
Representative Simonson, thoughts?
Right. So I think when we talk about defining the problem, it's interesting because when I first came to the legislature 2 years ago, this was a big topic of conversation then about, and MnDOT, quite frankly, came forward and said, look, we have a $12 billion deficit over the next 20 years that we need to fill just to fund state roads and bridges. And that's kind of evolved into a $6 billion 10-year problem now. But that comes from MnDOT, who I do consider to be the experts. So I think we've defined what the problem is in respect to, at least to roads and bridges. So the question is, how do we pay for this? And 2 years ago we were talking about this because I sat on the Transportation Committee for 2 years. And I think the collective decision was, let's push it off to 2015 and deal with it then, for good or for bad. But here it is 2015, and now we're having these discussions about this same transportation need, which hasn't gotten any smaller and continues to grow larger. And how do we pay for it? And I think the governor's budget has taken a responsible approach in throwing out, a mixed bag, if you will. And we can debate, whether the gas tax should be a part of that or should be larger, should be smaller. But at some point, we all have to admit that, hey, we've got a large deficit to fill here, and the only way to fill that is with new revenues. So where's it going to come from?
Well, it's certainly on the move. It's a target that's moving. Just the news tonight, Governor Dayton was actually saying that the February forecast is even a little bit more appealing. It appears that we may be actually gaining about another 150 to 200 million more than what was projected. So that leaves us $1 billion plus surplus. So do we? I guess the question is, do we deal with the $5 billion right out of the chute and go with a 50% increase in our gas tax? I mean, we're paying 28% now. You add 16 to that, that's over a 50% increase in one fell swoop. Maybe still coming out of this economy, what we're talking about is that maybe we need to slow down and identify a little more about what we can do. But we certainly know that there are, they're getting to be a kind of a standing joke. The potholes. The potholes, as you remember, last session was one of the top things that people thought about, even with all the things that we deal with down here. Roads and bridges are something really near and dear to people. And in some areas, I know they've even got on and off ramps for the potholes. That's how bad they've gotten. We kind of joke about that.
He was waiting for this.
Can I get a rim shot on that?
But we also have to be responsible. And the governor's office is doting this $1 billion plus now surplus. Do we Do we need to be, raising that much all of a sudden here right out of the chute when the economy's starting to come back? That's where the discussions are at. So I don't think you see any proposals quite yet coming from our side, but not in a too distant future. You will be seeing something, and it'll be a responsible action.
We're seeing some bipartisan bills being dropped both from the Senate and the House side, especially on Highway 10. Highway 10 is a joke. It's a mess, and we got issues with rail train safety. We got, firefighters can't get to places because train tracks are being staged, and cars are not getting off of Highway 10 to get onto the Ferry Street Bridge because there's trains coming that are blocking the north-south roads for that. That's there. I travel every day. 610 now. Build it and they will come. 610 Target North is there. 7,000 now new employees, which is a good thing, and all the other businesses that we're building up there. We have rush hour now out in the on 610, believe it or not. And then I get on 252, and it's all fine when you get in the north part of North Minneapolis, but then you get to that Lowry Tunnel, and I can sit in front of that tunnel for 20, 25 minutes, hour and a half sometimes to get 30 miles here in the cities. Get on the North Star, I can get to my work in less than under an hour, and it's there's lots of discussion out there. I'd sure like to have less stoplights on 252, and there's a lot of people up there that are agreeing with me.
But we're talking some pretty significant increases here, even in the metro, another 0.5% in the metro to help alleviate traffic, and so those are pretty large jumps all at once. But he's got a proposal on the table.
Yep.
That's what the governor does this time of the year, and we'll go from there.
Well, Barry, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Highway 14. It's a big issue in my part of the world, and as much a safety issue as a capacity issue, but we have New Ulm is the largest city in my district. There's a lot of trucking companies there, and their only way out of town is on a 2-lane road. We've got a chunk of 14 we'd like to get up to 4-lane and make sure those companies can thrive.
Yeah. All I'm going to say about Highway 14 is that I graduated from Mankato High School in 1973, and when I was attending Franklin Junior High School in the late 60s, we were talking about Highway 14. So, I know.
My goodness, mine was in 1970.
I know.
That makes me the oldest one at the table.
I wasn't even 5 years old then.
But there's a reason for that receding hairline we discussed earlier. All right, so moving on. Sunday liquor sales. We have a viewer who says, let every county within 30 miles of a state border be open on Sundays if they so choose. That'd fix the problem. Well, I don't know about that, but what about Sunday liquor? What's going to happen on that? Who wants to take a run there?
I'll give it a shot.
All right.
So I live in a border city right across the bridge from Superior, Wisconsin. So this issue always seems to be a topic of discussion in Duluth. When I first came to the legislature, this was something that, on a personal level, I don't think that I really have an opinion. I don't really care one way or another if they're open on Sundays or not. But when I first came down here, I wanted to try to get some information about this because it was actually brought up by my senator. As to, we should just fully legalize Sunday sales. So I sent letters to each one of the off-sale establishments, the license holders in the city of Duluth, and just asked them flat out, what do you think about this proposal, and tell me your thoughts because I need some feedback. And to a T, each one that responded said, no, we would not choose to be open on Sundays. And in fact, thank you for asking. Which I took, as a pretty strong message from a regular small business community. Between that and the fact that, the Teamsters are opposed to it, the folks that deliver the liquor, and frankly, I've got about maybe 4 or 5 individuals in my district that are promoting this effort, and that's a pretty small percentage of the folks in my district. So, I don't support legalizing Sunday sales, and I understand the arguments, but I just don't feel like there's a good enough reason to make the change.
It's amazing you bring that up. The last show that Barry had, the question was asked, and I think Representative, you had 3 people from the eastern part of the Twin Cities. I think it represented Dean, Senator Kent, and I forget who the third person was, but they had heard from their constituents saying that, oh yeah, we drive to Hudson, we do that. I live in Champlin, and there are 5 liquor stores in Champlin, and the owners and the workers are saying absolutely not. I have about half a dozen citizens who have said yes, I want to be able to do that. A senior vice president of Wells Fargo said to me, no, you don't want to do. I mean, it's just this anecdotal, so it's still up in the air. There's a gentleman that lives in Champlin who is the municipal liquor stores up Highway 10. So I think it's Elk River, Big Lake. He manages those two. And he's just said absolutely not, and because of the reasons given on, municipal employees. And so it's still a 50-50. I don't know what you guys are hearing out, in the southern and the western parts. But
Well, my district is interior. I've talked to my liquor store folks in the past, and they've always said, no, you don't want to do Sunday sales. People plan ahead. They buy what they need on Saturday, and they manage to get through a whole day without going liquor shopping. I kind of like Sundays to be a day of rest. That's what it's supposed to be. And so the more people we force to work on Sundays, it just adds expense. They don't feel it's going to add a lot of sales. Unless something changes, I'm still opposed.
Well, being the oldest guy at the table, I do remember the days when nothing was open on Sunday. And I'm not saying that's, obviously that's not a reality anymore. But I, too, have gotten, retailers have contacted me and said, you know what, we don't want to be open on Sunday. We just don't. I just recently heard about this Teamster issue that they don't want to do the shipping, and that I've never been contacted about. But I agree. I think we should take a day off. And frankly, I'm also in the internal part of the state, northwest portion, but they're organized there. They can buy their liquor on Saturday. That's never really been an issue. And furthermore, you can still go down to the club and buy alcohol if you want. But I think we should.
It is interesting to look at the differences in, the panels that we've had from week to week and the different views. I look to you, Senator Egerbrandt, as our veteran panel member here. Do you have a guess as to whether it passes this time around or not?
I'm with Senator Hoffman. I think it's 50-50 yet. I probably tend to lean that it may pass, more so than last time. Well, there's a typical political answer for you, but I don't have a real I don't have a real good read on it. I would say
some of my friends
51-49. How's that?
Some of my friends are for the affirmative, and some of my friends are for the negative, and I stand with my friends.
Isn't that funny? The other thing too that might come up, we now have 68 tap rooms, 68 brewers now, and the whole thing about growlers and the ability to sell a 6-pack, from that tap room and is something that might come up too. And there might why not make that available?
Sunday sales, when it comes to automobiles, is an issue too. Actually, we signed on to a bill where you can actually buy an automobile on Sundays.
Right.
And I guess I tend to lean towards that. I would. The people that are working hard all week and not around, and that's probably the only time they have an opportunity to go look at that car. So there's some bills floating around about opening up auto sales on Sunday.
So we've got a good government question here. By that I mean a government reform kind of bill that has been kind of percolating out there. We haven't had one this year on this particular topic, but I know there has been some discussion about it, so let's run it up the flagpole and see what the panel thinks about it. Viewer from Blaine wants to know, how does the panel feel about the Met Council? That's the neutral part of the question. Here's the viewer's outlook on the question. Is there some way for the legislature to control the Met Council's overreach and excess spending? Now, I don't know if those things are occurring or not, but clearly this viewer is concerned about the Met Council. And I know there's been some discussion. I think there's even been a bill introduced to require elections to the Met Council and confirmation by areas that are represented by Met Council representatives. What does the panel think about Met Council? Those reform bills going anywhere? Who wants to take a run at that?
I'll take a run. At the very least, the Met Council, we all recognize, is a very powerful organization. They make a lot of big decisions in the metropolitan area, and I, for one, believe they should be elected. Somebody with that much power should stand for election, and I would support that.
Is there a bill out there now? I mean, it's interesting because you're hearing some folks are saying, well, they should split because as soon as you get a new governor and that governor picks somebody, and then all this institutional memory goes away, and then you get to start all over again. And so it's interesting to see that as an elected. I've not heard that one.
That's probably the downfall, though, is exactly that. If you have a staggered election process, you're at least going to have somebody with some institutional knowledge always there when you have the next election. Or appointment. We'll have the Senate appoint, have the House appoint. But I know there's also some talk about adding 2 new counties without a vote, without a referendum. So I don't, but they are a very powerful organization. They should be looked at. Frankly, I think there's a bill there to require them to bring their their budget to the legislature, for the legislature to approve their budget. So I'm not sure where that's going to go.
The bill that I was thinking of, and I just heard a little snippet about it on the radio, it's not so much a direct election bill, but it is a bill that would require appointees to essentially have confirmation from the communities within the districts that they've been appointed to represent. And I think, I don't recall who the Republican author is, but I think Senator Rest was the Democratic author on that bill. So now that I've thoroughly confused people, Senator Hoffman, any other thoughts on this?
No, it's funny to hear all the different opinions out there, and I'm waiting to see how they flush through. And I don't know if they come through elections on any. I do serve on elections. I don't state local government maybe. I don't know who would have the jurisdiction to see those bills first, but. I think everybody around this table has heard lots of different versions.
Representative Simonson, your thoughts on
Well,
that?
not being from the metro, it's a little bit of a disadvantage, but it's amazing how much you do hear about it, even being an outstate legislator. And I guess, at this point, I'm keeping my options open and listening to all the arguments, and I think we're going to hear a lot more as the session goes on, and probably subsequent sessions too. But we'll just keep our eyes open, see what happens.
Viewer from Appleton wants to talk about the possibility or probability of copper mining. The viewer says in the Boundary Waters area, I don't believe that's where we're talking about. That's actually protected, federally protected land. But there is certainly discussion about copper mining in northern Minnesota, and the viewer's concerned about environmental impact in that area. What can the panel say about what might be happening on that issue legislatively? Anybody want to take a run at that? Senator Hoffman?
Thank you. Energy and Environment, Twin Metals has been studying this for a long time. One of the things that I think all of the folks that I talk to agree on is let science dictate what's next here. Yeah, absolutely. You start digging for copper, and it is the second largest, just in the Twin Metals area, it's the second largest copper repository in the world. You're talking about a big dollar amount, and hopefully we can good heavy taxes on there to help cover some of our good services we provide. But really, I think those of all that I know in energy and environment want to say let the science dictate just if this is a safe way to do it before we start jumping the gun.
Absolutely. But at the same time, there's a tendency to just delay the process by requiring ever more science be done. I think at some point you got to say, are we going to allow this or aren't we? Personally, I think we should move forward. I think what people often forget in the argument is that even once these mining processes start, DNR and PCA will be there monitoring every little thing that goes on, and if pollution is occurring, there's room for them to change those agreements and make sure that things are contained. I'm pro-mining. I think it's good for the state. I use a cell phone and a computer, and I know what's in those pieces of equipment. It's got to come from somewhere. Why not from job-generating mines here in Minnesota?
And I forgot to add to that, Polymet has been doing a water study. They were taking water out that they were working with, and it was actually running it through the reverse osmosis process. They were finding that they were able to keep that cleaner than it was when they were first extracting it. So there's some good science out there. Now it's just a matter of moving on beyond to get it going.
Representative Simonson, this is kind of up in your neck of the woods.
Well,
my guess is you have constituents who have views on this.
I do, because, we're kind of downstream from this project. So there's actually two projects that are very completely separate projects. We have the Polymet project, which is more of an open mining process, and that is on the St. Louis River watershed. And then we have the Twin Metals that you represent, or that you reference, Senator. That's on the Lake Superior side watershed, and that would affect the Boundary Waters should any of that water, be contaminated. But in my district, there's a big concern because the majority of my district is bordered by either Lake Superior or the St. Louis River. And the cleanup of the St. Louis River has been on the forefront of Duluth for many, many years since the U.S. Steel Mill left. And the mercury levels in that river are high enough that you can't eat, more than one fish a week or a month or something like that, still today. So folks are concerned, and it's not that we don't want to see the jobs, it's not that we don't want to see responsible mining, it's that we want to make sure that it's done right. So I've taken the position, I think as you have, Senators, that, let the science do its work. Minnesota has some of the strongest environmental laws in the country, and I think the process will play itself out. And if, quite frankly, if the company can meet the standards that are in place in Minnesota law, well, then more power to them, I say. But I think we should just let the lawmakers stay out of it and let the policy and the science play a role.
Well, we've been talking about this for a long time. When I was chairman of the committee, we had, and also the chairman before me, had discussions on non-ferrous mining in Minnesota, and that's been now at least 6 years, and I've heard anywhere from 6 to 10 years. The EAW, I think, is just now finally coming out, which is the federal programs that go on. But I think people need to be assured that, as Representative Simonson just said, the DNR and the MPCA have got things in place for any spillage or any leakage, and it's time now. It's time now to move on. And Twin Metals is another issue. I know we got a manganese mine up there as well that we toured, and actually the largest deposit in the North American continent. So we've got some tremendous opportunities for jobs and some revenues. There's no question about that for both our education and just taxes in general from the jobs that it will produce up there. And I look forward to the delegation from the northeast part of the state to take the lead on this and start moving this along, because it's time.
We have a viewer from Raymond, Minnesota, who wants to talk about what I think was the governor's proposal to spend $500 million more for education from the surplus. This viewer is concerned about how we fund that in future years. It, of course, introduces more generally the topic of K-12 or pre-K-12 education spending, complex issue, and there are lots of opinions about that. Maybe someone on the panel could take a run at explaining what the governor has proposed and answer that viewer's question and talk about the topic more generally. Who wants to take a run at that? We'll look at this side of the table.
I think there's a bill. There's even a bill out there.
It's good to see the governor come with especially on the pre-K side. I served 8 years on the Anoka-Hennepin School Board, and we were one of the first to really take a look at the positive preschool programs and just, especially when you're looking at, are they ready for kindergarten? And when you align the standards that you have as a local district, right, then you're saying certain benchmarks must be met. Well, what we found in Anoka-Hennepin is that 90% of the youth that were in the public school preschool programs, school readiness, early childhood family ed, 90% of them not only hit the benchmark for ready for kindergarten, but they moved the benchmarks in first, second, and third grade. Statistically, what that means is you see a 40% reduction in the use of special education services, and you see some other good statistics that popped out there as well. But what we really found out locally was that we were really moving the bar, and Anoka-Hennepin has one of the, if not the best, closure of the achievement gap. I mean, we learned how to do that by doing those kinds of work. You get what you put into it. I gave that my preschool bill is a very, very big preschool bill, but it started the discussion. I mean, if you want to make an investment in our future and show that we have a decrease in cross subsidies, we have a decrease in even teen pregnancies. When you look at that stuff, early childhood starting gets that. It's a study that was done through the Perry Preschool model out of Scopes out of North Carolina. It's a 40-year study. You hear what Art Rolnick talk about that stuff throughout it. But, I'm glad the governor is looking at the $500 million throughout the kindergarten through a 12 system. 1%, though, on the general formula. Most school districts would say, don't categorically give us the money. Give us the money on the formula. And when you do 1% and 1% a year, it's a good start. It doesn't get us there. But, again, we're going to have to find out what the targets are and just how much money is there. But at least it has the good discussion going about what's important. What are our priorities in Minnesota?
Representative Torkelson, your thoughts?
Well, we invested heavily in education last biennium, and especially in pre-K, all-day K, I should say. I think we should give that some time, see how it works across the state before we invest heavily in even younger education. Maybe I'm maybe not be the oldest person at the table,
Old-fashioned, old-fashioned.
but I only went to kindergarten for one day myself. I went to a country school.
Sure.
Started in first grade, had one classmate, and somehow I made it through.
All right.
And I know things have changed, but we invested heavily in education last year. I think I'd be more inclined to kind of see how that's going before I ventured into new territory.
Senator Simonson, your thoughts?
You know, I think the governor is right to prioritize education, and he's made no bones about that. That is one of his top priorities. And investing in K-12 and, frankly, pre-K and higher ed, too, is going to continue the work that we did over the last 2 years. And I think that ultimately the goal is, as you referenced, closing the achievement gap. But making sure that folks are prepared, to work when they get out in the job community, when they leave high school or when they leave college, and that's something that we need to do a better job of, because especially in Greater Minnesota, we're seeing a shortage of workers, and how do we best deal with that? Well, I think the investments in the education system are going to pay off in the long run. So, I think it's good. It's aggressive, and we can always use more money in education, I think. But continuing the initiative that we set forward in the last 2 years is a good idea, I think.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
It dawned on me. In the 60s, there was a program called Head Start, an early Head Start that was there. It was a child nutrition program. And what we found, though, is that those years of study, when you get somebody in Head Start and early Head Start, they have just as much, if not a greater chance of succeeding as anybody else. And for him to close the waiting list on Head Start really now gets the most vulnerable economically disadvantaged individuals out there an equal start to it. So that's another thing I forgot to add to it. But Eric, thanks for bringing that up. It's really good that the governor is thinking out that box.
Over the last couple of years, we've actually paid off the shifts that went on, and then we can all point the finger back and forth as to what party was responsible for that. But with the large tax increase last year, and some of it designated to pay that off, that is now paid off. And we also did, as the good representative to my left said, deal with pre-K last year, and frankly, we need to be looking at the other end of the spectrum. Instead of grabbing a hold or having the opportunity to actually take 4-year-olds out of the house, I'm real concerned about that. I think the parenting is still a priority here. We should be looking at. I don't know that 4-year-olds going to school is the right way to go, but we should be looking at the technology on the other end, the tech employees that we need, the technical community colleges and stuff that need to be funded. Instead of throwing another $500 million at pre-K, we should be looking at the industries that actually need the educated folks and go with these 2-year degrees. I mean, wherever we go, that's all we hear right now is we need these 2-year technical folks. So those dollars would be better spent on the other end of the spectrum instead of taking 4-year-olds out of the house.
So you'd like to see, like Leroy, Senator Stump's bill on the 2-year colleges, 2-year tech programs, having that paid for. That's something that would be right up the alley.
I don't know that I would pay for that
Yeah.
necessarily, but I would certainly incentivize it somehow.
Okay.
Instead of the social norm that we have to have a 4-year degree in order to be and go anywhere in this country. We all hear that wherever we go now.
Right.
We're just a shortage of the hands-on work, the technical folks. John Deere's, the Caterpillars, the Zieglers, they need folks. And I would be more apt to put my money that direction.
So let's move to bonding. I believe that's a topic, Representative Torkelson, you would know something about. This is given I think you're serving on chairing that committee, if I'm recalling your earlier discussion. Do I recall that right?
That's absolutely correct, Barry.
So this
I
is-
have to add that my very first day on the bonding committee was the day that I dropped the gavel. So I've never served on bonding before. So the learning curve is something I'm climbing every day.
Literally dropped.
Well, that's literally dropped it, yes.
Yeah,
That's what you do.
So that may be true, but that will make you our expert for purposes of this evening anyway. And
Fair enough.
Of course, as our viewers know, regular viewers know, this is typically not a bonding year. That's typically the even-numbered year, but it's also true that the last several sessions we have had bonding bills in the odd-numbered year. Tell us a little bit about what you might see happening from a bonding standpoint.
Well, first off, we don't need a bonding bill. We don't have to have a bonding bill. The government won't shut down if we don't have one. On the other hand, I looked at the history. When I had staff in, I said, well, tell me, I've been at the legislature for 3 terms now. Every year I hear that this is the odd-numbered year is not the bonding year, that the even-number year is the bonding year. What's the history? Since 1962, there has been a bonding bill every year except 2. So if you're a betting man, I'm not a betting man myself, but if you are a betting man, you will bet that there will be some kind of a bonding bill again this year. I'm not saying how big or exactly what it might look like, but it's pretty good odds that there'll be something. Typically, we do a smaller bonding bill this year where we clean up some things that need cleaning up, if there's some flood mitigation or something like that, we might throw that in there. But then next year, we'd do the major bonding bill is the most likely scenario. But as I tell everyone who's been in my office, and lots of people have been in my office, I'm making no promises.
And they're not coming into your office to explain why you should not do bonding, right?
You shouldn't do a bond.
Who's got friends now?
They come into my office because this year my jokes are a lot funnier.
What was it that
I love it.
President H.W. Bush said not too long after he was out of office, is they'll give you the 8-footers when you're president, but they don't give them to you when you're a former president. So maybe that's true of bonding chairs as well.
I think so.
So, but I suppose it's too early to talk about projects that might show up on that list. It's just at an early stage.
It is too early, although there are lots of course, lots of requests, lots of good projects. There's been some talk of not having a session next year. I frankly don't think that's going to be the case. I think there will be a session. It may be a short session because of the capital project. And assuming we have a session, then the bonding committee will be on the road this summer, going around the state of Minnesota, looking at these bonding projects that have been proposed. I think that's important work. I think it's good to get out there and see, it's one thing to look at a piece of paper and maybe a picture. It's a lot better to get out there and see what these projects are. Are they ready to go? Are they really good projects and necessary projects? At the end of the day, however many bonding bills there are and however big they are, I want it to be something we can be proud of.
Nice. Any other thoughts on bonding? I think we've maybe covered that. All right, so I'm going to start with you, Senator Ingebretson, with this next question. Don Davis, Foreign Communications, had an interesting article about a perennial topic around here, which is this question of when school may start, either before or after Labor Day. And I suspect that, there are lots of issues, lots of people who have opinions about that. And let's start with you, Senator Ingebretson.
Certainly the Congress of Resorts were in town yesterday and last night, and of course they definitely do not want a change there. That's the last weekend of the year, the big fling, if you will, for the resort community, which I represent a bunch of those folks. Which, incidentally, there isn't too many of them anymore in Minnesota. 7,600 back in the 1970s, and now we're down to about 800 or 900 resorts. So that heritage is slowly dwindling away, but it is a big economic driver for us in rural Minnesota, and we don't want to lose that time. And frankly, I just don't think we should get into business of setting that time, and school boards could. I don't know that there's that terribly much support for that, but I'm certainly not supporting it.
We're, on Monday or Tuesday next week, there are 8 different school districts coming to our E12 committee asking for an exemption to that Labor Day start. And they're all from Senator Conan told me this, that they're all from the western Bird Island, Lake Lillian, all the way west, and they're asking for an exemption on it. So and these are local school districts that have asked that. And that's the only ones I've heard of that have, ever come like that. And I've always heard, like Senator Ingebretson is saying, up in the resort towns up north, it just is not it's a job killer. So it'll be interesting to hear the conversation. I think it's Monday when they're coming in on that one, but so.
Representative?
Yeah, I don't think I would support it. I think it's good the way it is, and I suggest that we just leave it the way it is.
I'm the bonding chair. What do I know about that? Honestly, it's a tough issue because, I was talking to a school board member, and they're going to have 4 football games before school starts just because of the way the calendar works out. They have to get all their games in. They have to apparently do 4 before school even starts. So, that doesn't seem quite right. I'm a big believer in local control, so I would come down on the side of letting our school boards do their work.
Anybody have a guess as to whether or not a change in the current law, which essentially prohibits it, subject to some exceptions, Anybody have a guess as to whether or not a change in that law might pass this session?
You know, Barry, I think we'll see some exemptions given, just like you have some schools that have 4-day weeks, that want to keep the 4. I know one of the school districts out there wants to keep their 4-day week and doesn't want to start before Labor Day, but the other ones want to start before Labor Day. And these are local school boards coming. So it'll be interesting to hear their conversation, and, too bad I'm not here next week to talk about just what it was, because it's a whole hour and a half dedicated to those folks looking for an exemption. So I don't think you're going to see a system discussion on it, though.
All right. Viewer from Austin wants to know, is the legislature discussing any options for reducing tax on farmland? This viewer notes that Minnesota farmland is taxed much higher than in many parts of the country and thinks this is a disadvantage for Minnesota farmers. I don't know. Let's start with you, Representative Torkelson. You represent some of the, I think I can safely say, some of the best farmland anywhere in the world.
Well, thank you for that. I wish it was on my farm. This is a big issue. Farmland values have shot up over the last few years, which brings the property tax valuations along with it and raises property taxes. There are a number of proposals out there. Right now, when you pass a school levy, operating levy, it only affects the house, garage, and 1 acre. It doesn't affect your farmland. But when the school tries to pass a bond issue to build a new school, that affects the farmland too. And in a district where you have lots of farmland and not very much other business property, our farmland property taxes are skyrocketing. It's a genuine problem, and now we've seen farm commodity prices drop off dramatically, but the property taxes are continuing to rise. I think we really need to take a close look at this and try to figure out some way to come up with some property tax relief for ag land.
Yeah, this is a hot topic in the tax committee, property tax division especially, because, and I do think that, farmers make a very compelling argument, and you laid out the reasons exactly why. But, the question is, how do you respond to it and how do you deal with it? Because if you look at the numbers, as the values increase and the numbers go up, well, there are times when the value also decreases and the numbers drop way down. But I think we need to take a look and try to find a reasonable and more fair system for ag land. And, some of the proposals out there, quite frankly, I think are Band-Aid approaches, and we shouldn't be taking, short-sighted, just try and patch it and get it through. I think we need to take a really serious look at how we do this, not necessarily any different than how we did with mining in northeastern Minnesota and how we tax those properties based on a production value. So maybe there's some other options out there that we could talk about, but over the last 2 years, I think we made some good progress in property tax relief, and we need to continue that. But this ag piece is interesting because there's certainly more, I think, work that could be done there.
I would agree. The convoluted tax issue in Minnesota has been around for a long time. I mean, it's just not real clear what goes on, and with the commodities as high as they were a couple of years ago, the values did go up. But of course now when the commodities are not there, the value doesn't seem to go down, so they get taxed the same. So it definitely needs a look-see. There's no question about it. And tax policy in Minnesota has always been a very challenging issue, and it just has to be looked at. I mean, it just should.
And you're hitting right on the nail. This when you're looking at, let's stick with education. A kid's a kid. Your per pupil unit that you're getting is what, $5,610. But those of us that come from property poor districts, where I live is a property poor district. When you look at most of the rural communities, you're right. You don't have a big business there helping level off that tax base, and so. Where do you start to get equalization of those property taxes? Where do you start to do it? I'll use a metro. And I used to make fun of if I wanted to get $900 in per pupil unit and I lived in Coon Rapids and I had a $100,000 piece of property at the time before we did the equalization bill 2 years ago, you would have to levy that property tax owner $212 to get the $900. If I lived out in Orono at the same time, $100,000 piece of property, the tax levy would have been $74 to get that $900. So throughout the whole system, whether you come from an area where there's lots of state land out there and you're not able to generate that revenue for definitely to build new buildings, to alternative facilities. We need to look at that. Some of those districts, I know the districts you guys all come from, you're not able to access, although you can, the alternative facilities money to help keep the roofs from leaking and keep the HVAC systems and everything going. But absolutely a deeper discussion about what's parity and fair, because, and I know I'm rambling, but 13, our constitutional amendment, Article 13, says free and appropriate public education for every child in the state of Minnesota. And it's a way to look at it.
Viewer from Brainerd wants to talk about the Aquatic Invasive Species Bill. I'm not familiar with the specific legislation the viewer is referring to, and there's no other identifying information, but this viewer is concerned about this bill and wants to know what, if anything, is going on about it. Does anybody know anything about this topic? Any bill that has been specifically offered on this issue?
I'm sorry, the question was about aquatic invasive decal on the boat trailer? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's not clear.
Okay, I think that's probably what they're talking about, the requirement.
Okay.
That as I was chair of the committee back 3.5 years ago, the aquatic invasives was a huge topic. We spent big dollars on specifically the zebra mussel, and there was a talk of shutting public accesses down and confiscating boats. Judge, you know, that probably wouldn't go over so good in court. So, I mean, there were people that were...
Well, would certainly generate work for the lawyers. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I know the budget there is a little tight as well, but you would definitely need more. But so there was a lot of scare, a lot of alarm that was going out there. You know, that this was going to take over our state, and so we were busy putting lots of dollars into it. And part of the process was we were going to do some education. And we left it up to the DNR to come up with an education piece, and we gave them a time factor to do it. And the education piece they came up with was an online, 20-minute online test, if you will, and then you would get a decal, and you would be good to go. And they were going to come up with a fee for that, and we think that's a little bit over the top. So there's some bills out there to repeal that. There's also some bills to address. We still want some education. We think it's important. How to clean your boat, how to drain your live well in your boat, and all that going on. But it was a little bit of an overreach, but it was because we all were pretty scared of it at one time, and now we're finding out it's not working, so we're not scared anymore.
That is the last word on the topic. I want to thank our panel. We've run out of time. I want to thank our viewers for joining us this evening. I want to remind you we'll be back here next week and all the weeks that follow until the legislature goes home, whenever that might be. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
There's much more about Your Legislators online at pioneer.org/yourlegislators. Find out more about the history of the program, who's been a guest, and watch all of our past episodes. There's also a photo gallery, informative links, and much more. You can also get involved and stay in touch by following us on Twitter and join us in the discussion on our Facebook page. Thank you for watching Your Legislators. Major funding for Your Legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a statewide coalition fighting for a 10-year commitment to fixing our dire transportation needs. A safe, reliable transportation system strengthens Minnesota's economy. Join the conversation at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota clean waters, safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans.